diagnosed with breast cancer in 2019 and had a double mastectomy and hysterectomy and was given an 82% chance that it would never return. But in December, she had a PET scan and it is back with a vengeance. And so chemo starts on Wednesday, but we had some issues with her insurance company and there was a better treatment option for her at another facility and they denied that treatment. And so I called in all my prayer warriors and we did an appeal. They denied the appeal. So it was an extremely frustrating time, but I'll tell you, this community rallied around me and God moved a mountain for us and she's going to get the treatment that she needs. And we start on Wednesday. And so we're extremely thankful and grateful for that answer to prayer and for, I just love all you all so much. And thank you very much for your support. And here we go.
Absolutely. We are cheering for you. We're cheering for Jessica and just incredible what has happened gosh, can only imagine what you're feeling, but we are with you, standing with you and voting for victory. So thanks for sharing that here. Okay. All right, you guys, moving into, it's all the same, right? Business, community, all the same, but we are going to move more into the business side of this call. And I wanted to reference two things quickly. To start off, we've got the Go for No / Go for Conversations challenge. And what that means is we are going for 100 conversations in the month of January. That looks like having conversations with people who do not have Young Living essential oils, who do not have an account with Young Living. And so instead of you spending your time documenting all of that, and I logged in today and saw that many of you have documented it, I'm just going to ask that you submit one photo with all of the names of the people that you've talked to, all 100, to the Go for No challenge@gmail.com. And if just one photo, and then once you do that, go ahead and fill out this form that I just put in the chat. That is going to get you the OQ mug, okay? So I know the mug is not that's not what makes it worth it, but you gotta be honest, the mug makes it kind of cool, right? You are legit. So that was the first thing. The second thing is that in the OQ Brand Partners Facebook page, there have been some amazing Facebook Lives done by executives and above. And if you go in the units tab of that group and just go all the way to the bottom unit, and then you get to the one that says Brand Partner Story, you can watch those videos, and they're just inspiring, just inspiring. I'm excited. Tomorrow I'm gonna have some time to go through and listen to all of them. So pumped for that. So, all right, moving into, I'm so excited. You guys, tonight we have a special guest who is a longtime friend. I played volleyball with this guy and his wife the year Eli and I got married. And really cool. I just want to set him up and tell you how awesome he is. I'm going to go ahead and add the spotlight too. One of the cool things about Brent is that he's always a big heart. He has a big heart and he's always giving no matter what. And so a few days ago, he reached out to me because he is in financial advising. And he was like, hey, what are you guys doing for your financial advising? And I was kind of sharing with him. And he gave me some really incredible value just right off the bat. Hey, here are a few things to look for in the current, company that you have and all this. And I was like, that's really cool. And then he came back, started talking about some more things. And I quickly noticed that he was excellent at just communication and keeping the conversation alive while making me feel legit. He's like, oh my gosh, you're doing so good in business and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I'm like, wait a second. That was awesome. I want to be more like that. I want to be more like someone who gets in conversations and can make people feel special. And you know what? Even when he realized that I couldn't do anything for him, he didn't just let the conversation die. He was still there for me and to figure out hey, how can I help? So I asked him, I was like, hey, will you come on our call on Monday night and talk? And of course he said yes. And you know what? I just want to throw this out there and we'll recap it at the end too. But if you need anybody who is a financial advisor and you're like, I'm jiving with Brent, keep him on your radar because that's what he's doing. So Brent, thank you so much for your time. I guess I should probably start by just letting you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your life.
Sure, yeah. My name is Brent Murff. I'm an investment advisor representative with Oak Road Wealth Management. I took a a less than traditional route into the finance world. I actually started my career in a corporate marketing logistics type position and promptly got burnt out on corporate life, which I'm sure many have. So my initial step was to I was just looking for freedom. I made the determination that, God put me on this earth for more than chasing a buck. And I wanted to do something to help people. And I wanted some freedom. So I actually jumped into healthcare. My wife was a nurse, and the whole 3 days a week, 12-hour shifts sounded good to me. On a random sunny Tuesday, we'd be out in the park, walking through the woods, just enjoying life. So that led both of us to go to nurse practitioner school, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I worked as a nurse practitioner for a few years. And I reached a point where I actually had a very flexible nurse practitioner job. And I was actually pulled into the finance industry as kind of a side thing to see if it was, something. Well, somebody approached me and said, I think you're good at communicating. I think you'll be good at that. Why don't you give it a shot? And, I felt like there was something lacking in the industry. I worked with lots of people who, I would hear, well, I don't even know if I'll ever be able to retire. I didn't feel like that was, while there's a lot of advisors out there, I don't feel like a lot of them were approachable or accessible to people. People felt uncomfortable talking to them. So I said, yeah, let's, I'll give it a shot. Why not? And, I fell in love with it. It's become my passion. Some people say, well, don't you, regret wasting your time with healthcare and becoming a nurse practitioner, all that kind of thing. But, what I tell them is honestly, it shaped who I am today and my perspective. I've sat there with, nurses who, they focus so much on their patients and other people that they don't take care of themselves. I've been with patients who, they worked their rears off and saved up all this money, never enjoyed it because they were living for retirement. And then, something happened, they were in the ICU and they're sitting there coming to the realization that, hey, I may never even get to, enjoy my retirement. So, it's become something I really, strive to do, is help people, find that balance in life where, you're not shoving all of your money away to the side, hoping to enjoy it someday, that you can use it now, but still having confidence that, there's going to be enough down the road that you are going to be able to hang it up and you have a plan for that. So that's kind of what led me to where I am today. And then I'm kind of unique in that I got into the industry, and I'm not going to lie, I was quite naive getting into the finance world. I thought it was all about helping people with their finances, helping people have those the things I was just talking about. I quickly realized what a sales-driven world it is, and I really had trouble connecting with that. And the firm that I started with, I mean, they're amazing people. I love them to this day, but I decided that was not the business model that I was going for. And it's the large majority of the industry is that way. So I set out to if looking back at myself when I was on the other side of the table, what kind of advisor would I want to work with? What kind of situation would I want to be in? And that's what led me to this. It's kind of rare. You don't see very many, but it's a fee-only fiduciary model where we are, legally bound to do what's in the client's best interest. We can't receive compensation from anybody else outside the client. So it kind of eliminates all of those options for conflict of interest that so prevalently exist in the finance world, and really narrows it down where I don't have a choice, but my focus has to be on the client. So that's kind of what brought me to where I am today.
Yeah. And that's like literally, okay, what I heard you say is like, what kind of advisor would I want to work with? So when I go back to Young Living world, Young Living land, and I'm like, okay, how do I get more customers? Like, how do I enroll more people? Like what you just gave us right there. What kind of person would I want to enroll with? That is like the magic question. So how did you come to that, Brent, when you were like, okay, like who do I want to be? Because when we were talking, you're talking to me and I'm like, you obviously had the person in mind when you were shaping your questions, whatever. Was that something that just came natural to you? Did you have to read books about it? Like, what was that journey like?
Honestly, and good, bad, or indifferent, but I never have really studied sales because I personally feel like in the finance world, um, I shouldn't be trying to sell something to somebody. I mean, to a certain extent, yes, I have to sell myself because people need to have confidence in me. There's that piece of it. But when we're talking about people's, life savings, all they've worked their whole life for, I don't think they should be sold on something. They should be incorporated, involved in a discussion. And, if I'm a good fit for them, which I know I'm not a good fit for everybody, you can't be everything to everybody. I get that. But identifying those people that I can help and showing that value to them. And um, that's just the approach I've always taken. It's more of like, I've kind of brought my healthcare background into the finance world. So, kind of for example, I had a case. It's actually while I was in nurse practitioner school. I had a gentleman who came in, and I was in a primary care clinic, and he came in. He's like, "Hey, I've got some back pain," and the natural response from healthcare providers, okay, well, you get some physical therapy, take ibuprofen. Maybe you're gonna need some pain medication, all this kind of stuff. Well, it led me to, okay, well, is there anything else that you, like, well, yeah, my shoulder kind of hurts, and every once in a while, a little bit short of breath. Well, when does this happen? And you start asking all these questions, and all of a sudden, he's just perfectly just describes somebody who has heart disease and could be having a mild heart attack. So all this stuff is going on. It was back pain, shoulder pain, but in his mind, all it was yeah, my lower back's hurting. So you know when I'm reaching out to like a business owner, one thing that we're looking to do is help 100 small businesses this year, open a retirement plan to help their employees save. I start that conversation with them, and I when you talk to people, they don't necessarily know what their pains are, where they may have a gap. So you got to find where they're at right now. They may say this is kind of here's my issue, or I may have this solved. You can ask a few more questions, dig a little bit further, um, see if there's something underlying where you can help the person. And honestly, if there's somebody who, hey, I've got an advisor and I'm in great shape, and I have this accountant that's helping me with this, you know, I'm happy for them. I'm glad you found somebody to help you. And if I can find some other way to add value, I will.
Yeah.
I had a gentleman who he was looking to expand his business, and he already had a retirement plan, and there was no way for me to really help him there. But it was in the healthcare field, and with my business background, the healthcare background, it was beneficial for him to just kind of pick my brain on how he was wanting to form this practice. And will anything ever come of that for me? I don't know, but it was an opportunity to invest in him as a person, help him grow. So that's the approach I've taken. That's how I've learned to communicate with people.
Yeah.
It's not the norm for my industry, but
Yeah.
it's an approach I like to take.
Well, it totally makes sense. One of the things that you said that I was like, oh my gosh, is you said this man who was having like heart symptoms, he didn't even know his problem. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how many times do people not know their problem or think, what could Young Living do? Like, they don't know. They're thinking they have a preconceived idea about what essential oils can do. And if it's not get rid of their candle, then they're not interested. They have no idea of all the other things,
Exactly.
So I'm thinking to translate, just like I'm getting what you're saying. And I'm thinking we have to figure out a way as a professional to come across to them and find their need for them, because they might not even know their need. So Brent, if you were in our position, if you were in my position, how would you, and I don't even want to say like, what approach would you take? Because that kind of sounds exactly like what you're saying you don't do, but like, how would you go about starting that conversation and like kind of weaving in what it is that oils can actually solve? Like, what kind of questions do you think you would ask?
people, I feel like right now people are ready to talk. I think we're so isolated that anybody who has the opportunity to talk and just kind of, empty their thoughts, their emotions on you, I think they'll do it. So, you know, I think it's not necessarily that you're having to really dive in and ask a whole lot. It's more about, being somebody that listens, active listening. Um, I feel like a lot of people, you
Do
kind
you
of get
mind
them.
describing active listening?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So when, I ask you a question and you give me a response, whatever your response may be, acknowledging that, yes, I heard what you're saying, and then, that may all be all you need to keep going, but also, follow up with what the person's saying, dive in a little bit deeper, have them explain themselves. As a healthcare provider, you have to do that all the time. And that's, again, back to the mindset that I take into my businesses. You know, with that guy's example, he had back pain. Well, a lot of people say, okay, well, your back hurts. Okay, well, I understand your back pain. What causes that? Is there anything else that happens with it? And those follow-up questions and really digging in. I think you'll find that people will really, really open up.
I love that. Faith says, sometimes we focus on the oils when our prospect may need cleaning products. Asking questions and active listening will reveal their interest. Boom. I love that so much. That's so good. And that's exactly it. Like, and so is there anything else that happens with it? Okay. So when someone says, oh no, I don't need what I have, what are kind of some clarifying questions that you ask to kind of dig deep? Because one of the things I noticed in our conversation was I was like, oh, thanks so much, Brent, like come hang out in Florida, but we do actually have a financial advisor and we're good. But you were like, hey, I actually know. You asked more questions. You didn't just be like, okay, cool, see you in Florida. You just asked more questions. What kind of I'm complicating my own question, but my point is what questions would you ask if someone in our position was like, hey, do you use essential oils? And they're like, yeah, I use essential oils. What would you respond with at that point?
Well, I was actually just digging in to see if I was actually invited down to Florida because I was packing my bag while we were talking.
Hey, come on down.
And part of that is carrying on the conversation a little bit further to see if, because to a certain extent, people do have a wall built. And again, some people don't know what they need. So, for me, it's diving a little bit further. Say, well, okay, who do you work with? And you'll tell me, and that gives me a good idea of, who they, depending on who that is. For in my world, I kind of know how they do business, and I know, okay, yes, they have somebody they're comfortable with, but I know they're paying too much in fees, or they aren't getting the service that they should be getting for the fees that they're paying. And while they think that they're being taken care of, there's something better out there. And then it becomes, okay, how do I introduce that? Where's the opening? So with, in your case with essential oils, it's a matter of, all of the different applications for it, all the different benefits. It's keeping that conversation long enough to find a need. I mean, there's so many applications to it that you're going to be able to find something for somebody. It's a matter of finding what that pain point is. My wife and I, mainly my wife, owns a med spa. And it's the same kind of thing. I'll be talking to somebody and there'll be something I'm like, I know you could use some of our services. I'm not going to come out and say that. I can't do that. But if
you mean you're not going to say you need Botox?
I mean, there might be some people. That's the hard part about being married to somebody in that industry is I do walk by people. I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to introduce you to my wife.
Oh no,
it's horrible. But you see all the great things that they're able to do for people, and I'm like, just let her go help you. But I'll be talking to somebody, and we'll be chatting along. I'll look for an opportunity. They'll bring up something, and it's amazing how many times, like when you're watching for it, that somebody will reveal a place that they need help. And you don't even have to really dig for it. It's just being aware and paying attention and listening. And, I think if you work with a mindset of always just trying to add value to people, whether it's something that you can do that you could benefit from, or you can connect them with somebody. You know, maybe it's somebody, you know, I'm in a conversation with somebody and they are saying, you know what, I've got a great financial advisor, but you know, one thing I haven't done, we've been talking about, I need to get my will done or something like that. Well, you know what, I have no way to benefit from that, but I know a really good attorney that I could send them to that'll take good care of them at a reasonable price and be quick to respond and do all that. And I'll say, hey, I tell you what, I actually have a guy, let me send you his email and connect you. I can help you with that. You know, so
Boom.
when you're in the mindset of trying to add value to other people's lives, you kind of naturally start picking up on these things. And sometimes it's something that you're just able to help them with that you have no benefit from down the road. But, you know, other times in your case, you know, you might find an application that where essential oil can help them, and you can slide it right there in the conversation.
Yeah. And I feel like what you're saying is so good, because it's like, you never know. What if that guy or the woman who's writing those wills comes across someone and they're like, you know, oh, I need to do financial advising. And they're like, hey, you know what? This guy just sent me a referral. Like, what? They're probably like 90 times more likely to send you business. And not that
Sure.
that's the reason you did it, but it's because you were adding value, and it was like, boom. I love this. Yeah, the relationship. Yeah, we talked this morning about the go-giver, and the whole idea is that you're giving instead of trying to go get, like go-getter, like just
Sure.
give. Okay, so one of the things that I'll add when we are talking to people, a lot of times if we say, hey, are you using essential oils? One of the things that they'll come back with is, yeah, I'm using, and then it's XYZ brand. And so we all have this really strong belief that, like, you know, you cannot beat Young Living. Like, Young Living is the best. And, you know, that's like, we believe it, we know it, we have all the facts. But one of the things I see people get hung up on a lot is like, how do I make that bridge from, wait, I know something that's true, to tell them. And I know kind of my approach, but I'm curious, Brent, what you would do if you believe you have the best essential oils on the planet, and then someone responded to you and said, yeah, I already use essential oils, I use XYZ brand.
Sure. Before we go to that, the go-giver thing, I think you'll find that if you operate with that mindset, it's so contrary to everything else in the world that you'll stand out. Because we're in a world where everybody's looking, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? And if you're that person out there looking for opportunities to give, you're gonna stand out, and people are gonna see a difference. So, yeah. So I think part of it depends on, to answer your question, the kind of person you're talking to, what matters to them. You know, if you were trying to explain how it's better to me, your best bet would be to roll out a bunch of scientific studies. Say, hey, look at this. In this double-blind, peer-reviewed study, essential oils was this much more, you know, it performed this much better in this situation. Not everybody needs to hear that, but you know, everybody kind of takes things differently, and you can get into, you know, some people prefer you know, visual communication, and some people prefer verbal communication, all that kind of stuff. But part of it's, you know, reading the person, understanding what speaks to that person. Maybe you can tell by what kind of career they have, or just what the conversation at that point. But you have to, and I'm not an expert on essential oils, but you've got to know your product. You have to know, you know, where it shines, and with that specific use, whatever you may be talking about, because I'm sure there's a lot of variance, and with that specific use, how that product shines compared to others. So I think a lot of it comes down to knowing your product, but then too, how you're going to communicate to that person. You know, you're not going to just go to them and you say, well, yeah, I'm glad you have that, but I'm sorry, that product's awful. You know, maybe it's just a simple, maybe it's just a simple, yeah. And there's some places that probably would actually work really well. Maybe it's just an invitation to say, hey, I tell you what, why don't you try substituting this for, you know, X period of days or months, whatever it would take for them to see the difference in the two, and say, you know what, if you don't like it, go back to what you're doing before.
Yeah.
But I think you'll see the value. I think it'll be worth your time and effort.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, for me, coming to the conversation with what you did so well in our conversation that stood out to me was you asserted yourself as someone who knows what they're doing, because you do, and you've studied and you've put that in. So when you have that confidence, it's not hard to say, okay, you know what? One thing that I would advise you on as a professional is watch out for XYZ thing. So like, you know, what you said to me, I could kind of flip it. If someone was like, oh, you know what, I use XYZ oil and yeah, I'm good, but thanks anyway, cheering you on. And I could say, okay, awesome. You know what? Something to look out for though, is there like different distillation processes. Let me shoot you a video that my friend Victoria did on her Instagram yesterday, and it shows kind of the coffee, and it's really cool. Check it out. And you know what? If you watch it and you're like, I'm cool with what I have, then no problem. But if you watch it and you're like, oh, like I was, then, you know, let's talk if that's interesting. So you could kind of like banter almost, but like as a professional, like coming from that space of like, oh yeah, I absolutely know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where it's really important to know your product and know where it shines, and know when to flag those things and bring that to their attention.
Love it. And you know, one thing too is that, like you said, we're not like, not everyone wants the best essential oils. You know, even if we know it's the best essential oils and we're like, no, these are, some people don't actually want the best essential oils. Just like some people, like when I was a kid, I'm totally going to tell on my mom. When I was a kid and they didn't have nice razors. I know some people buy dollar store razors, and I didn't even know what a good razor was like till I was like an adult. And so I'm telling on my mom right now, I'll let you know she's upgraded now, we're good to go. But some people don't care about quality. Some people are going to buy dollar store razors, and some people are going to invest in a good one. So just like that, some people, Dana, yeah, I could see how our upbringings were probably similar. So yeah, Brent, I just thank you so much for coming here and sharing that. I know that this is not something that you are like, you do on a regular basis, come train network marketing teams, but you put yourself, you put yourself out there, and I just really appreciate you saying yes, and just bringing us value. So if they want financial advising, and you know, ever need anything in your wheelhouse, where should they contact you?
Sure. Probably the easiest way would just be to shoot me an email. Brent at oakroadwealth.com, Brent, it's oakroadwealth.com. And Bethany, if you just want to send out my email to them as well, that's fine.
Yeah. And I found your headshot on Google. So I know the information's out on Google as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube replay, you can check it out. So thank you guys so much. All right. We'll see you back. We'll see the team back either here live in 15 minutes for the Oils and Valentine's Day class, or live stream on OQ. You guys have a great night. Thanks, Brent. Everyone unmute yourself as you're popping out and say thanks.
Thank you, Brent.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brent.
Thanks, Brent.